Hey everyone, and welcome back for another Mindset Rebuild Deep Dive.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
I'm Alan,
I'm Rebecca.
and we're here to help you, all you busy creators and business owners out there, beat stress and find some balance
Exactly.
with simple ways to calm the mind.
Simple ways to calm the mind.
And if you're new to Mindset Rebuild, you can subscribe over at mindsetrebuild.substack.com.
Yes, definitely do.
So Rebecca, today we're diving into this whole concept of the inner critic.
Oh, yes.
And how it just, completely impacts creators and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's funny because like 85% of people experience self-doubt in their professional lives.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's huge.
But for entrepreneurs, it's even higher.
Well, for sure.
So why is that?
I think it's that kind of, putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Constantly kind of on the edge of, potential failure. And so that can really, bring up a lot of self-doubt.
But why is it so loud for creators?
Well, I think there's this almost like a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Between what we logically know we're capable of and then what our emotions are actually telling us.
Right.
And so that's where this inner critic comes in.
So it's not just like external factors.
No.
It's internal.
It's like that internal battle.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you'd think the more successful you become, the quieter it would get.
Yeah, you would think, right.
But it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, it seems like the louder it gets.
The louder it gets, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you're constantly kind of pushing yourself to that next level.
Right.
And so there's always that potential for, not quite reaching it.
So is it just kind of part of who we are, this inner critic?
Well, some experts believe it actually has evolutionary roots.
Okay.
Which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Think back to our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
They're facing constant threats in their environment.
Yeah, saber-toothed tigers.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. And so that voice that was saying,
be careful, watch out, question everything.
yeah.
That might have been the difference between life or death.
Interesting.
So it was actually helpful back then.
Okay.
But now the world has changed.
Right.
But our brains haven't really caught up.
So we're still on high alert
Yeah.
all the time.
Exactly.
But instead of, worrying about being eaten by a wild animal, it's, did I get enough likes on my post?
Exactly. Yeah. Or, is this pitch going to land?
Right.
Did I make the right decision?
Right.
All these things that, while they're not life or death,
Right.
they feel like it sometimes.
Especially as a creator.
Well, for sure.
Because you're putting yourself out there.
You're putting your heart and soul out there for everyone to judge.
Yeah. And critique.
Yeah.
So how do we start,
So it's crucial to develop these strategies,
yeah.
For managing that inner critic.
Yeah. How do we start to tame it?
That's what we're going to get into.
Yeah.
It's not really about silencing it completely. It's more about understanding it,
Okay.
reframing those messages, and then choosing which voice we're going to listen to.
I like that.
Yeah.
So next time we're going to dive into those strategies.
We are.
And figure out how to do just that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Me too. So one of the most effective strategies is actually pretty simple.
Okay.
It's acknowledging the voice.
Acknowledging it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were supposed to ignore it, push it down.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
But trying to fight it or ignore it often makes it stronger.
Okay.
It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Oh, yeah.
The more you push it down,
Right.
the more it's going to pop back up.
So what do? We just let it run wild?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
It's about creating a space between you and the thought.
Okay.
So when that critical voice pops up, try just saying to yourself, okay, there's that voice again. Thanks for sharing. Just acknowledging it.
Oh.
It can really help.
So we're not trying to shut it down,
Yeah.
but just being aware of it.
Exactly. You're just observing it.
Okay.
Without judgment.
Got it.
And that can help you detach from it a little bit.
That makes sense.
And see it more objectively.
So how do we stop, getting swept up in it?
Right. Well, that's where the next strategy comes in.
Okay.
And that's challenging the thoughts.
Okay, so we need to,
Put them on trial.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because the inner critic loves to present those opinions as facts.
Right.
But most of the time, they're just stories,
Okay.
based on fear and insecurity.
So how do we do that effectively?
Well, one powerful technique is to ask yourself a series of questions.
Okay.
So first, is this thought really true?
Okay.
And often when we examine it closely, we realize it's based on, assumptions or past experiences
Right.
that might not even be relevant anymore.
So we're, generalizing from the past.
Exactly.
Even if it's not true now.
Exactly.
Right.
Another powerful question is what evidence supports this thought and what evidence contradicts it? You know, because a lot of times we find there's not much evidence to back up those negative beliefs.
So we're like demanding proof
Exactly.
from our inner critic.
Yes. And then finally ask yourself, what would I say to a friend
Oh, I like that.
who is having this thought?
Yeah.
Right? Because we tend to be much kinder to others than we are to ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's shifting that perspective a little bit.
Okay. So once we've challenged the thought, then what?
Then we want to start replacing it with something more positive and empowering.
Okay.
And that's where affirmations come in.
Affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a little skeptical of those.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Yeah. Do they really work?
They absolutely can.
Okay.
They're basically positive statements that you repeat to yourself,
Okay.
either out loud or in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of reprogram your subconscious beliefs.
So we're like replacing the tape
That's
playing in our head.
Yeah, with something a little more uplifting. And encourage it.
And what are some examples?
Well, you know, it depends on what resonates with you.
Okay.
But some examples might be, I am capable of learning and growing.
Yeah.
Mistakes are stepping stones to success.
Mm-hmm.
I have valuable insights to share.
Okay. Those are good.
You know, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really about finding what feels good for you.
But how do we make those affirmations stick?
Right. Well, it takes practice and consistency.
Okay.
It's like creating a new neural pathway in your brain.
Right.
The more you repeat it,
The more ingrained it becomes.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, try writing them down,
Okay.
putting them somewhere you'll see them regularly,
Okay.
or incorporating them into your routine,
Yeah.
you know, like while you're brushing your teeth or commuting to work.
Making it a habit.
Exactly.
Oh.
And just experiment until you find ones that really resonate.
That makes sense. So what about when we're really struggling and the affirmations just aren't working?
Right. Well, that's when self-compassion becomes so important. So instead of beating yourself up,
Right.
which just strengthens the inner critic,
Right.
try treating yourself with the same kindness
Okay.
you would offer a close friend.
Self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we cultivate self-compassion?
Well, mindfulness can be a really helpful tool.
Okay.
You know, when you notice that critical voice taking over,
Yeah.
just try taking a few deep breaths
Okay.
and observing those thoughts and feelings
Okay.
without judgment.
So we're creating space
Exactly.
to just be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Another helpful strategy is to reflect on past successes.
Yeah.
You know, remind yourself of how you've overcome challenges before.
So we're looking back at our track record
Give that
to see that we've done hard things before.
Yes, and that you can do it again.
Okay.
And then finally, don't forget to reward yourself for progress.
Oh, I like that.
You know, no matter how small,
Yeah.
celebrate those wins.
Okay.
Acknowledge the effort.
Makes
You're
sense.
putting...
So it's like we're acknowledging our strength
Mm-hmm.
and our ability to bounce back.
Exactly, and that we're all works in progress.
Right. None of us are perfect.
None of us are perfect.
That's okay.
Exactly.
All this sounds so helpful,
Try.
but I feel like even with all these tools, the inner critic might still pop up.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do we prevent it from taking over?
Well, you're right. It might always be there,
Right.
but it doesn't have to control us.
Okay.
One of the most powerful ways to kind of quiet it down is to just take action,
Okay.
despite the doubt.
So don't let the fear paralyze you.
Exactly, because the more we hesitate,
Yeah.
the louder it gets.
Right.
But when we take action, even small steps,
Okay.
we start to build momentum and confidence.
Yeah.
And that voice starts to fade.
So we're proving to ourselves that we can do it.
Exactly.
I
An
know.
action doesn't have to be this big, grand gesture.
Right.
It can be as simple as breaking down a task
Okay.
into smaller steps and just focusing on one thing at a time
Yeah. I like
and
that.
celebrating those small wins along the way.
Because we get overwhelmed by the big picture.
Exactly.
But if we break it down, it's not so bad.
Exactly.
This is all great. I'm curious, have you ever struggled with this yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, I think everyone does.
Okay.
Especially, you know, those of us who are constantly pushing ourselves to
Right.
grow and evolve.
Even experienced professionals
Oh, for sure.
deal with this.
I remember this one workshop I was leading,
Okay.
and I was hit with this wave of self-doubt right before I started.
What happened?
Well, I was trying something new,
Okay.
a new format,
Mm-hmm.
and I just started questioning everything.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, instead of letting that fear paralyze me,
Right.
I took a deep breath.
Okay.
I reminded myself of my preparation,
Yeah.
my passion for the topic, and I just started.
And how'd it go?
It ended up being one of the best workshops I've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah, the participants loved it.
That's amazing.
I learned so much from the experience.
So it's like even when we're scared,
Yeah,
we can still do it.
we can still do it.
That's great.
And the more we practice that, the less power that fear has over us.
So true. This has been so helpful.
Good. I'm glad.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what are your final thoughts on how we can reclaim our power?
From this inner critic. Well, my final thought would be this. Remember that inner critic may always be there,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be in charge. You have the power to choose which voice you listen to, which thoughts you entertain, and which actions you take.
Yeah.
So by acknowledging it, challenging it, and replacing it,
Right.
you can transform it from a roadblock into a stepping stone.
I like that, turning that negative energy into something positive.
Exactly.
So how do we start shifting our perspective?
Well, here's a challenge for you.
Okay.
Next time that inner critic speaks up, write down the comment and then rewrite it as a positive affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if it says you're not good enough to do this,
Right.
you can reframe it as I am capable of learning and growing and I'm worthy of success,
I like that.
right?
Okay.
And then take one small action towards your goal, no matter how uncomfortable it feels.
So we're taking action.
Exactly,
Okay.
because actions speak louder than those thoughts in your head.
That's a great challenge.
Yeah, and remember, this is a journey.
Right.
It's not a destination. So there will be days when that voice is louder than ever.
Of course.
But just keep practicing these strategies, keep showing up for yourself, and keep believing in your ability to create amazing things.
This has been such a great conversation.
It has.
I feel like we've really unpacked this whole inner critic thing
You did.
and given our listeners some awesome tools.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember, you are not alone in this.
Yeah.
We all have that inner critic.
For sure.
But with awareness, compassion, and action, we can really transform it from a source of self-doubt into a catalyst for growth.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of growth, don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Rebuild at mindsetrebuild.substack.com
Yes, definitely do.
for more tips and strategies on beating stress, finding balance, and creating a life you love.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself.
And one last thought to leave you with. If your inner critic were a character, what would they look like? And how would you interact with them differently now?
That's a great question.
Yeah, something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time for another Mindset Rebuild Deep Dive.